Good morning, everyone, or just say good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Jamie Taylor, the host and founder of the Black Golf Directory Virtual Career Fair. And today is day 2 of the career fair. I'm excited because we have another great company that we're featuring. And by the way, all the companies that we're featuring are usually the top in the industry and the field that they're in. And today is no different. Today, we are featuring Golf Digest, also Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the parent company of Golf Digest. And they are going to talk about the publishing side of golf and kind of things that they do in that space. Because for those of you who are writers or are probably a myriad of things, they have a lot of opportunities there, as well as just like all of our other companies, they are a corporation and have all the normal jobs that corporate companies have. So I'm excited to introduce our guest. Our guest today is going to be Anna Johnson. She's a senior recruiter at Golf Digest, or I should say Warner Brothers Discovery. And so, as promised, these are the people that you would need to directly connect with in order to find out about opportunities, and they're going to be the ones to help you find those opportunities. So please do not be shy. Communicate in the chat. If you have questions during the interview, I'll be happy to share them with her. And then, of course, if you have to leave early or you want to get any further reminders of the jobs and opportunities that she speaks of today, I have in the chat our link to register for free for the emails that will go out to follow after each of these interviews. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Anna Johnson on. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're glad to have you. So Anna, we always like to kick things off because there's so many companies in the golf industry. People always see these things like Golf Digest magazine. For those who are golfers, they know what a Golf Digest magazine is. But for those who don't, can you just give us a brief overview of Golf Digest and the Warner Brothers Discovery Company as a whole?
Yes, thank you so much. So as you might have heard, Golf Digest is a monthly golf magazine, and it is published by WBD's TNT Sports Unit. It is the most trusted name in golf, as we like to say, and it's such a great publication. We have a really fantastic digital offering as well as our print offering. And in addition to Golf Digest, we also have Golf TV, which is a direct-to-consumer platform that we have. And then the PGA Tour, we have a partnership with them. Basically, it includes having broadcast rights. So we're very excited about that. And then in addition to that, we also have Bleacher Report and we have TNT Sports for those of you who, in addition to golf, are also interested in, some of our other, sports entities. So definitely Warner Brothers Discovery has a wide portfolio in the sports industry.
Thank you. Appreciate that overview. And as I said, there's a lot going on there. So let's just start with you. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been with the company? Are you a golfer? And what exactly do you do for WBD?
Yeah, so actually, before becoming a recruiter, I'm a recruiter for WBD. And before that, I spent about 6 years in the CNN newsroom. So I was a journalist myself, and I transitioned into my current role as a recruiter in HR, in the HR space. And it's been a lot of fun helping hiring managers, helping candidates connect. Because of my time in the newsroom, I have a good sense of what they're looking for editorially. So that has really served me well, that background in this role. And so I help recruit and hire for CNN, TNT Sports, Bleacher Report, Golf Digest. So kind of everything in the news and sports area of WBD.
Got it. So that's good to know about your background because I think a lot of people, one, I think, did you mention that you're a golfer or no?
Oh, sorry. No, I am not a golfer. I do have a lot of family members that love to golf, that are avid golfers. My cousins, my brother, and I have a 5-year-old who just finished doing Aussie golf, and he loved it. He loved it. It's so cute, and I think we're gonna do it again in the spring.
That's awesome. So I want to make that point because every time we do these interviews, I'm always emphasizing to my audience that you do not have to be a golfer to work in the golf industry or to work for these golf companies. These are obviously jobs that a lot of people go to college for and or not, and they just decide this is the career path they want to take, and they just happen to work for a company that has golf as a part of their portfolio, or that's what their focus is. So I'm just wanted to make that point. And I'm glad to hear about your son. We got to work on you now as an LPGA professional. You know, I'm always recruiting, especially women, to the game because I feel like that's something that is important, not just for you and your child to enjoy together, but also for your industry. Would you say, having worked at this company, have you been introduced to golf at all, or what made you decide to put your son in golf? Was it because you worked at this company?
I think it actually came from him. I think he like knows that his uncle plays and he was like, "Oh, that looks fun. That looks interesting." And so it actually like came from him wanting to learn. So it definitely has sparked interest on my part.
That's good to hear. All right. So then my job won't be too hard to bring you to the other side. All right. Well, good. So let's talk about the things that people are here for, which is your careers and opportunities. Kind of talk to us about what the landscape, specifically if you could talk on the golf digest side, the landscape of jobs that you have available, what kind of roles is available either currently and or just in general for the company.
Yeah. So I would say in the editorial space, right, we have, all kinds of different content creators. So, we have people that write. We also have video producers that work on the website content, and we also have marketing. I've been working really closely with the marketing department. We currently are kind of in the later stages of looking for an associate marketing manager. And for that role, they work really closely with sales. They work really closely with the video producers as they, sort of bridge the gap between, the client and sales and brands that want to partner with Golf Digest. So, I want people to know that it's not just, content creation. You have people in marketing, you have people in HR, you have people in sales. Like there are so many other areas that you can get involved in, that aren't necessarily, creating content, but still supporting the brand.
So with that said, because I would tell you, I don't have a background in those areas, but what would be the ideal candidates for those type of roles? What kind of experience should they have and or degrees? Kind of just give an overview, a general overview of that.
For sure. So I do think that, once you're looking at, jobs that are opening up, I would say if you have let's say 80% of the qualifications that they're looking for, I would say go ahead and apply because you just never know, what they're looking for, what you bring to the table. I think it's important for people to say, what they're passionate about. If you're applying to a role, at Golf Digest or at any one of our sports entities, if you say, that you're passionate about the sport, that you play the sport yourself, or, whatever, association you have to the sport, I feel like that's important to have on your resume. I think that it definitely shows that you can bring that knowledge into that role. So I think it's really important to include that. I know a lot of people might look at that as like, oh, but like, am I talking about my hobbies? Like, that's maybe not something you would generally put in a resume, but I feel like you need to include everything that's going to make you stand out on your resume. And I feel like that's relevant to the job, being passionate about a sport or playing that sport or whatever experience that you have that tie you to that sport. I feel like that's something that you want to highlight on your resume.
That makes a lot of sense. I've had those conversations sometimes with people because a lot of young people think that, oh, I haven't worked that long, so I can't apply for a role. But one thing I always tell people, for me in the golf space, I tell people I've worked in golf for over 30 years, and of course I am over 30, but people always look at me with a puzzled face of like, how could you be there almost 30 years in golf? And what the reality is I started volunteering as a golf and junior golf instructor at age 12, like legitimately helping out. And so I always count that because that was something that kind of got me experience and interest into what I do today. And people don't think about those things. Those volunteer roles that you may have done that kind of gave you that interest. Not that I've had this conversation necessarily in an interview, but for me, that's where my experience started. So it's always important. People don't always think about those things as experience, and they always think they have to have like a paid role or something significant to show that they've had some type of experience in those areas. So I'm glad you brought that up. To that end, are there entry roles of some sort? Do you offer internships of any kind at WBD?
Yes, actually, I have a really great example. So somebody who actually interned at Golf Digest is in the interview process for a role right now. So yes, we have interviews, and we love our interns, and we love to see our interns applying to jobs, whether it's like immediately after graduation or if they go to another company for a couple of years and then come back. We count that as success stories. Like, we love to see that. So yes, we absolutely do have internships, and we love our interns very much.
That's good to hear. I know a couple of years ago when I did this, because again, it's my 5th year doing this event, we had a former intern that came on and spoke. So I don't know if it's the person I'm thinking of, but he would be a good option if he is. So give us some insight as to what it's like working there in regards to the work schedules, the benefits, just kind of those overviews.
Yeah. So as a company, we do have a hybrid policy. So people are coming into the office 3 times a week, and they are working from home twice a week. Sometimes, depending on the role, we do have some sports jobs that do require some evening shifts or weekend shifts, depending on, activities, events that are happening in the sports world. So I would say, we definitely recommend that people that are going into, applying for these jobs kind of have an open mind and, kind of have that sort of flexibility, because a lot of times some of our jobs in sports are not, your regular 9-to-5 job. Some of them might be, but some of them aren't, because, it revolves around, sporting events, and sporting events aren't always, 9-to-5. So, or weekdays.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Definitely not a 9-to-5 gig, but I mean, as long as you enjoy it, and it's not like an everyday thing where you're not working the 9-to-5 hours, but obviously there's some flexibility there needed. And then what about remote working, flexible schedules? What's that look like? I mean, does all of your employees have to relocate? And if they do, where is the location?
That's such a great question. So because of the hybrid work policy, what we've seen, like where we've seen some flexibility within that, is being able to hire from cities where we have some sort of hub, some sort of, building, some sort of bureau, if you will. So I have seen some flexibility when it comes to that. Golf Digest is located in New York. And I know for the jobs that I've been kind of tied to, they do want people to be already living in New York or being willing to relocate. But I have seen other jobs that have a little bit more flexibility in hiring from Atlanta, DC, LA. One of the cities where we have our major offices. So that's where I have seen some flexibility when it comes to that. But we have had people relocate, not too many remote opportunities, to be honest. I haven't really seen too many of those.
All right. Well, the cities you mentioned are major. So, I mean, it's not like they're boring places to relocate to. So, hopefully, that doesn't turn anybody off. But they can be expensive. So, hopefully, the compensation will cover those costs of living. Because I can tell you, someone who lived in California, significant difference from being from Ohio originally. So, can you speak to now, just as, if somebody wants to apply for any of the roles that you mentioned, talk to us about just some of the red flags that you've seen in the application, and then speak to the interview process that people should be mindful of.
For sure. Okay, so a little bit about applying, and then I'll talk a little bit about the interview process and all of that. So when it comes to applying, we have jobs that are posted all the time, and we have a lot of recruiters across the entire org. So I always tell people to check our careers page, because a lot of times, like, we might not be working on a specific role. It could be a colleague of ours. So we're not aware of what's open at all times, throughout the company, because it is a very large company. So I always tell candidates to be vigilant in checking, because jobs pop up all the time. And so I would say be very just be very mindful of checking for any new postings that come up. And then the other thing too is, I would say, once you look at a job description and you think, okay, I've got about 80% of the qualifications here, I would say and I know people hear this all the time, but tailor your resume to the job. Check to see, what are some keywords, what are some things that they are looking for that you have, but you just have to make sure that your resume is reflecting that. Because I know people go through job descriptions and they're like, oh, I have these things, but then they turn in their resume and it's not really addressing the things that they have that they're looking for. So that is super important. Now, at our company, we don't have like a system that goes through picking out like resumes that have like keywords. Like, we have to physically look at every single resume. Like, I don't have some sort of filter. Like, I don't have a robot like going through resumes. Like, we have to physically look at these resumes. So I would say, definitely pay attention to, your resume, and be very thoughtful and be very thorough, and make sure that you're tailoring it to the job description. So that's what I would say about applying and resumes and all of that. Now, for the interview process. So we like to do a lot of like panel style interviews. So typically there's an interview with the hiring manager, and that would be the person that, the person would be reporting to if they get the job. And so typically those are like one-on-one interviews over Zoom. We do a lot of our interviews over Zoom and not so much in person anymore. And then we do a lot of like panel style interviews with other people that are either in that department or that work really closely with that department. So like, let's say for marketing, maybe they'll have somebody in sales in the in the interview process. And maybe they have like a video producer in there. They want to be able to have these departments that work really closely with that department to be part of the interview process. So we do panel style interviews of like 2 or 3, also over Zoom, also virtual. And then some of our jobs might have like a project or an assessment that's also part of the interview process, or they might require work samples. So whether it's video work samples, like things that you've edited or things that you've written, proposals you've worked on. Sometimes there's this other component. We've also had different kinds of assessments, questions, that people have to answer. So that could also be part of the interview process as well.
Thanks for that thorough overview. And I say that because I do remember hearing about the samples of work that you all require. So having some type of portfolio ready is always good, which I think would be industry standard, I assume, when you're into that line of work. So that's good to hear. And then the other thing I think you mentioned that I've heard already in the other interview yesterday was just, making sure that your resume is relevant to the job that you're applying for, not just using like a standard one that you send out to everybody, but using the job description as a guide for tailoring the resume. Because I think, as I said the other day, I'm surprised at how even grown people struggle with that, or at least they, I guess, don't want to put the time in to update it. And so they send it over, like even to me, to reshare with the companies. And I'm always like, this is not clear as to what it is you're trying to do in the industry, especially for those who are not from the industry and they want to get into the industry. Just trying to make it clear that this is something that makes sense for the roles that they're trying to apply for. So I'm glad you brought those points up. By the way, for those who are here joining us, just want to remind you, this is our Golf Digest interview. Also, the parent company being WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery. Anna is the senior recruiter. And if you have any questions, this is the time to ask directly to our guests, because this is not a common thing to just be able to casually interact with people from the company if you're interested in these jobs. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat so I can share them with Anna. So with that, I have another question related to just your general company as a whole. How would you say they foster a work-life balance?
That is a really great question. So I feel like as a company, I feel like we have, well, I should probably say, I feel like across the board, I feel like we have, as an industry, we went through COVID, where people were working from home a lot, and we got to know what that felt like and what that was like. And I feel like coming back into the office, it wasn't like, oh, we're going back to the way life was before. I feel like there were learnings that were, that we gathered, that we had, that have carried over into this new kind of work landscape. So even though, yes, we are coming back into the office 3 times a week, but I feel like there's a lot of flexibility even within that. So I think that managers have been very in tune to what, the people in their department, what their needs are, what's going on with them and their families. And I think everybody has felt, that flexibility, especially like when we need something, it's not like how things were before, where it was like a big deal if you had to, work from home the entire week because, your child is sick or something, so we definitely have felt that flexibility has definitely carried over. The other thing I wanted to mention is that for our full-time employees, we have flexible, we call it flexible time off, take what you need time off. I know there's other companies call it unlimited PTO. But basically, instead of getting a bank of days that you can take off, you just put in for the time that you need, and then your manager approves it. So I think that that is a benefit that definitely speaks to that work-life balance. And it's a benefit that our employees really appreciate, being able to take the time that they need and not have to be counting the days that that they can take off. I feel like those are the things that really speak to that work-life balance.
Thank you. And now you're right. COVID changed the whole game, which I appreciate because I was always one for wanting to work from home. So I was appreciative of the change. I have a question from the audience, and the question is, what sustainability practices does the organization implement in its events and daily operations?
Let's see. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, what sustainability practices does the organization implement in its events or daily operations?
I'm gonna have to think about that one. Can we come back to that?
No, for sure. I know that was a toughie, but everybody has. I mean, sustainability is a big topic, I guess, these days. So I like that they asked that question. Would you say there's opportunities to advance the career within the organization? And can you give an example? I know you mentioned your pathway, but can you give one maybe related in the golf space?
Yes, I can. Actually, the person, so in that job that I was, recently working on, the reason the job is open is because somebody else was promoted and then it became a backfill. So that's a great story to tell. That's a great reason to have a job opening when you have to, backfill somebody that got a promotion. So we do see that quite a bit. We do give internals opportunities for learning and development. So we do try to give people different opportunities in order to advance. Something that we've kind of seen a lot across our different brands is the opportunity to shadow in different departments. So if you're interested in learning what another department does, or what maybe kind of like the next step in your career is like, you can spend time with someone that has that job or it works for that department, to learn a little bit more about what they do. We always encourage our internals to never stop networking. So a lot of times people network to get into the company, but then once they're in the company, they stop networking. They feel like, oh, I did that already. I don't need to do that anymore. But you should never stop networking. Even when you get the job that you want, continue to network, because that's what's going to help people get to know you better. And you need to tell people what you want to do. Here, we don't penalize people for saying, what they want to do next, or if they're interested in another department. People are very open with their managers in terms of their career development and what they want to do next. And it's not seen as a negative thing. It's seen as a positive thing. And if there's something that your manager can do to help you get there, make different connections, then they will help you. So basically, there's lots of different opportunities to network and advance. We also have learning and development classes. If people want to train because they want to become a manager, there's opportunities for that. So I feel like the company does a really good job of giving our internals opportunities to advance.
That's really good to hear. And I'm glad you brought that point up about talking to your manager about your career goals and aspirations. That was something that I did at my last 9 to 5. And I would tell you, a lot of my colleagues, the younger colleagues for sure, were just like, oh my God, you can't talk about this in public. You can't say this out loud. And I was like, why? I'm not planning to be in this role until I retire. This is, this is a stepping stone. And I think a lot of people don't know that that's kind of how you move up, is to communicate that, either, like you said, to your boss, obviously networking and all those things while you're at the job. So that's a normal behavior, a normal thing to do. So thank you for bringing that point up. All right, so we have as a wrap up, rapid fire questions in honor of our 5 years of doing this event. I'll be very kind because I know you're not a golfer, but the idea is that I would ask the questions and you'll try to answer them. And I would say, we'll say about 15 seconds instead of 5. That's a bit tough. If you can, roughly 15 seconds or even to a minute, depending on how the question, so that we can get some more information from you about you. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. The first question is, what are your top 5 favorite things about working in the golf industry?
Okay, so top 5 favorite things, getting to work with creative people. I would say that PTO policy is also really great. So I love that. What else? I love the people that we work with. Everybody always, like across the board, all the brands, they always talk about how much they enjoy working with the people that they work with. And I would say I love working for brands that people know and love. Like we have so many great brands under our portfolio and people can really identify with them. And so that is also like a really nice thing to be able to say that you work with all of these brands that people have a connection to. And lastly, it's exciting. Like it's kind of like working for like an exciting brand. Everybody loves sports. Everybody goes to sporting events, watches sporting events, and so it's just really nice to be able to work in a company that that does something fun and exciting. So I would say those are my 5 things.
Awesome. Next question. Share 5 quick tips for networking in the industry, the golf industry specifically.
Okay, so networking tips. So I would say if you're not already on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a really great resource for people. I would say keep your LinkedIn updated. I love when people share what they're working on. So like if you're a writer, share your articles on LinkedIn. Or if there's a project that you worked on, like share it on LinkedIn. Like that's where recruiters are going to look for people. So, when we have a job and we're having a hard time finding someone that has like a very specific skill set, we go to LinkedIn. So I would say make sure that your LinkedIn is top notch. The other thing I would say is once you get an interview, try to do a mock interview with someone. So try to make sure that your interviewing skills are sharp. And I would say to use, like if they ask you a question about how did you solve, this problem, like make sure that you have certain life experiences in your pocket that you can use when they ask you, like, one of like those like common questions, like tell me about a time where you solved a problem in the workplace. Like make sure that you have something in your back pocket that you can pull out, that you can, speak to. So practice kind of like answering those kinds of questions so that once you get asked that, you already, have the answer prepared. So I would say, okay, so LinkedIn, do mock interviews, have your, answers to common questions in your back pocket. And then make sure that you treat your virtual interviews the same way you would treat an in-person interview, but make sure that you are somewhere where you're going to have, strong Wi-Fi, where the lighting is going to be good, where you're not going to have, noises and distractions. So definitely treat it with the same amount of professionalism that you would treat an in-person interview. But then also, in addition to that, have in mind, all of these other things that, make for a really great virtual interview. And then lastly, I would say is don't be afraid to bring your whole self to work and your authenticity to work, because those are the things that make you who you are. Those are the things that will make you, to be relatable, be able to connect to other people. Those are the things that might make you a unique person for a particular job. If you have certain skills, certain hobbies, certain things that you do, that might make you stand out, when they're looking at a sea of candidates. There might be something really special about you. So you want to make sure that bring that to the table. So those are the 5 things. I also wanted to share, if possible, in the chat, I found our 2023 sustainability report for the person that was really interested in that. I'm sorry that I couldn't give like an overview of that, but I did find this link that hopefully will be able to give you a little bit more insight into that.
No, I appreciate that. And I'll also share that in our email that'll go out to everybody that wants to see the recording, and also get the job reminders. That way they'll be posted there as well. So thank you for that. I wanted to add something to this, to what you were saying about interviews. I got a question the other day, not doing an interview, but just from someone that I'm going to be working with. And it was a question that you might like to add to your repertoire. But the question was, if I was on an elevator with your mom, what would she say about you? Like 5 things she would say about you. And I would tell you, when I actually called my mom. Thankfully, my mother is still living, and I could reach her, but she didn't answer. So my initial reaction or wanting to tell this person was basically just kind of sharing my resume, like, oh, she's accomplished this, 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 this. So I gave them that information. But then I talked to my mother later that day, and her statement was more about my actual like internal, my intrinsic behavior. So like, I'm a hard worker, self-motivated, and it was very brief, but it was very poignant. And I was like, it was like, I never thought about that, but it was a great question, because of course your mother hopefully will say the best things about you, and obviously should know you the best. So just throw that out there. Something if you want to take that one, you're welcome to have it. But it's kind of a cool question. So the next one I would say is name 5 skills that are crucial for success in your role.
In like as a recruiter, my role. Okay. I would say you have to be very organized. So definitely project management skills are really important. I would say communication skills, both written and oral. We're talking to a lot of people, hiring managers, department heads, candidates. So I would say communication skills are very important. I would say you have to like talking to people because as a recruiter, you're going to conferences, you're meeting people, you're going to networking events. So if you don't like talking to people, that could be that will not be very helpful for you. So I would say you kind of have to like talking to people. And then I would say I think you have to be somebody who loves to learn, because a lot of times you're put into situations where you're having to fill a role about an area that you aren't familiar with. Like one time I had to fill a sports betting role for Bleacher Report, and I knew absolutely nothing about sports betting. So I had to research. I had to find things out about the industry. I had to learn, things about sports betting, and I never thought I would have to, learn about that, but I did for my job. And so you have to be curious. You have to like learning. And I would say, so having like that natural curiosity and love for learning. And then the last thing, I'm trying to think of what else. I feel like you have to, I'm trying to think about how to describe this, but every job is different and every hiring manager is different. So I feel like you have to be flexible, agile, and adaptable. So different people work differently, have different communication styles. So like being able to like like flex like be flexible with the hiring managers in how they communicate, how they want to see candidates, how they want their updates. So you can't expect everyone to work the same way. So you kind of have to figure out what works for each hiring manager while still maintaining the same process, structure, professionalism. Make sure that you are going along with, company policy. So like while you're still doing, all the things that you need to do for your job, kind of within that figuring out, okay, how does everybody work? What's going to work best for every hiring manager. So you kind of have to be flexible in that way.
All right, we got 2 more quick fire questions. The last 2 may be a little tougher, but I think you got this, Anna. So this one is, if 5 words, and just to remind everybody, she's not a golfer, so we're going to do our best here. In 5 words or less, describe your dream job if you were in the golf, like if you were playing golf or knew a lot about golf. What would be your dream job in golf?
Oh man. I would say maybe events. I really love like hosting and like decorating and entertaining. And so I think I would love to do something like in the event space.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. That's what I do. I do events in golf, and I do them now for myself. The most recent event, and I'm proud to say, was I took a group of women to Costa Rica 2 weeks ago. Yes, international, and I love to travel, so that was part of the reason why I did it. But also, I realized that I wanted to test my event skills and see if I could coordinate something. So now it's going to become an annual event, which I'm excited for. And yeah, so it's kind of cool. Yeah. And then the final question is, name 5 golf terms in 5, well, we'll just say 15 seconds. If you could think of 5 golf terms.
Okay, so I might not know what these terms mean, but these are words that I've heard being thrown around in the space. So shot, birdie, eagle, let's see what else. Caddy, and oh my gosh, what was the last thing? A bogey.
Perfect. That was great.
Okay.
I'm impressed, especially with the scoring, because scores in golf are always the hardest thing. And to your point, you may not know what they mean, but the fact that you knew the terminology is actually really good. That's going to be something that I will have to help you with when we get you into the golf game. So, but with that, we're going to wrap up. So I want to thank you for coming. And before I go, can you just give any last tidbits to the audience? And obviously, if there's anything specific coming up that they should look for to apply, remind them of those opportunities.
So I'm going to share the careers website link for WBD careers. So that's the first thing. I believe that there's a way to to set kind of like alerts of like what you're looking for, like the types of jobs that you're looking for. So if you can do that, I think that would be really great, because that way you'll know, you'll be one of the first people to know when those jobs become available. And I would say don't wait to apply, like apply right away, because you don't know how long these jobs will be open for. And, at some point we start the interview process. Sometimes we're like in final interview rounds, like, you don't know where they are, but if you're able to apply as soon as possible, I feel like your chances to get an interview are much higher. So I would say, set those like alerts, and then apply as soon as you see those jobs open up.
Got it. Thank you for those reminders. And also, we'll also have a link to your website through our website as well. That'll be on there year round, so people can also go there. And everybody, if you're interested, obviously send your resume through the portal. But then if you also want to send it to me, I can make sure Anna gets it as well and let her know that you're interested in opportunities with them. But again, if you send it to me, just as a reminder, be very clear in your cover letter and in your resume the job that you're looking for. And I have to emphasize that point because I've gotten resumes and I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking to be hired to do. So I just want to emphasize that you do that for me to send it to the person that you're interested in, and also be clear who you like me to send it to, because I'm interviewing obviously multiple companies. So thank you again, Anna. I really enjoyed all the great information that you shared. I'm excited for hopefully the many people that will be interested to apply for your roles, or at least have learned about your company and now would keep it on their radar for future. And for everybody who's watching this, just want to remind you that tomorrow, as part of our career fair, assuming that the hurricane that's coming doesn't affect my internet too badly, we will have a double feature tomorrow. We will have First Tee and Golf Tech. So we'll have an email going out to those who sign up for the event to remind you in the morning of the times and the links and the locations. But we are also going to be live where you're watching this now. And then you'll also get this interview recording and the links that were provided by Anna today and information recapping this great interview. So thank you again, Anna, for your time and for your information. And I'm hoping that you'll get some resumes coming down the pike soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks again. And thank you all for watching.